So this is Steve Ridgell, and I've been thinking a lot lately about the power of one, what it means to be a person doing what God wants you to do in this world, what it means to be a person in this world. Because here's what I think about. I hear a lot of Christians talk about the church needs to feed the world. The church needs to save the world. The church needs to help the world. And I get what all that means, but if we're not careful, we start thinking in terms of church, big, collective. And so I need to write a check. We need to have a better program. We need to hire someone too. And I guess that's the church, but I'm really not sure that's the tenor of what God and Jesus want us to be doing when you read through the Bible. And even the world, we think of that the same way. Save the world. Everybody that's hungry in the world, there's lots of hungry people. This geographic area, we need some kind of program to feed them, and maybe we need to do some kind of mass distribution and save the world. Well, there's lots of lost people, so let's find some big program, some big ministry, some parachurch thing that will save the world. And I think hungry people need to be fed, and I think Christians ought to do that. And I certainly think people that do not know Jesus have to hear the good news of Jesus. And I think Christians do that. And so if you're talking about the world as a collection of individuals, I think that's one thing. If you're talking about the church as a gathering of individuals, that's one thing. And I think that's kind of the only way we're ever going to really do what God wants us to do in this world is if I, as an individual, go into my world, and when I see a hungry person, I feed them. And when I see a person that doesn't know Jesus, I tell them about Jesus. It's really easy and a little comforting to talk about the church, big collective, and the world, big collective, because then it's a lot easier for me just to say, well, I've written a check, I did my part. I believe in this big ministry, I did my part. I hired someone to go over there and talk about Jesus, and I hired somebody to go over there and run a food bank, so I've done my part for Jesus. And I'm not against programs and people being hired, and all that's fine. That's fine. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that this world is made up of a lot of individual people. And when I go out into my world, I need to see people. And God's counting on me, Steve, to do what I can do for the people in my world. And so I think we ought to think a lot less about let's feed the world, let's save the world in big collect, and let's think a lot more about maybe I ought to feed the person in front of me that's hungry, or visit with the lonely person in front of me, and especially talk to the person that doesn't know Jesus, who's right there in my world. And it's really easy to get lost talking about church and forget that what church is, well, it's you and me together in this world trying to follow Jesus and supporting each other and worshiping our God and encouraging each other to go into our world and do what God asks us to do. So let's don't get lost in playing big church and saving big things. Let's focus on the people in our world who need a word from Jesus or a bite from Jesus or a message from Jesus. And let's do that, you and me, in this world together.